So please welcome to the stage Mary Poles and Patrick Dempsey.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Hello. Hello, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Very warm. Hello up there. Hello, thank you very much. Very nice. What a great space.
It is a great space.
I've heard a lot about it. It's nice to be here.
Yes, it's wonderful. Does everybody want to come up and do their selfie now? Thank you for doing this. This is so wonderful.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to put my glasses on now because I'm middle-aged.
Afternoon of our lives, I think, is the best way.
Oh, that's a lovely way to put it.
That's a Nietzsche quote. I can't take the credit
for that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay. So I want to start with, the obvious question. What did you drive here?
I didn't know what I was going to drive at first, and then I realized it was the Porsche Cayenne GTS.
Wow.
But I had the 911 out earlier. It's a 72T.
Yeah.
And my wife was driving that around today, which was fun.
So what color?
I was the passenger. That one's orange.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It was what was called the communication color in 1972. But it's great for the fall here, even though it's summertime now.
Because
it sort of blends in a little bit better than the summer.
Yeah. So have you gotten a speeding ticket in Maine lately?
I've been pulled over, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I got pulled over.
And I was going in a school district. I was going through. I was, and I should have known better, but I did.
And did you get off?
I don't remember what happened.
Okay. I got a $200 speeding ticket, with my son and my dog in the car.
What were you doing?
I was headed to Southwest Harbor, and I was apparently going 72 in a 55-mile.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't seem that way to me.
No, it never does.
He was just not. Usually what I do is I roll down the window and I let the dog put his head out, and he's really cute, but it didn't work. Didn't work. It was awful.
I know, you have to.
It was awful. Okay, so there's so many things that I feel like that are a little bit mysterious about you.
Oh, really?
Yes. For instance, people say you're from Lewiston, or they say you're from Turner, and some people say you're from Buckfield. So which is it?
It could be all three, actually.
Really?
Yes, I grew up in Turner until about junior high, and then we moved to Buckfield. And I was there until about a sophomore year, and then went to St. Dom's in Lewiston. So yes, okay, so St. Dom's, did you graduate St. Dom's? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Wait, did we go to school together?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, yeah. All right. We'll get back to that in a minute, but I had a great time at St. Dom's. It was a fantastic.
Is that where you went to the principal's office a lot?
No, it was Buckfield.
Okay.
Well, all of them, actually, at some point.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I was misunderstood.
You were?
Yeah.
But your mother worked in the principal's office.
Yes.
And so you were misunderstood. And
by her, certainly, yes. No, it was always the gauntlet to get to the principal's office. I wanted to see the principal before I wanted to see my mother, because I knew the disciplinarian action, the discipline that I would get from my mother would be a little bit longer lasting than when I got from the principal.
So would she look up and be like, Patrick?
Oh, she just got that look that all mothers get when they're upset with their children.
I can feel that look on my face, yes.
That's good.
Okay, all right. So did we, I've been reading about the movie you're producing, the Garth Stein's novel from 2008, The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Yes.
Which is about race car driving and I guess a dog. And I'm wondering, did we take you from the set or did you wrap?
We wrapped 2 weeks ago. We have one more scene to shoot. I was actually looking at the locations in Italy, which is good. So
really?
How many people have read the book? Thank you.
It's
a beautiful book. It's a wonderful story. And racing is sort of in the background. It's about a journeyman driver, and the dog is sort of witnessing this man's journey through life, and he ends up going to race eventually in Formula One. And Enzo is the lead, sort of the dog's name. He's named after Enzo Ferrari. So it's a big moment. So we've finished principal photography. It was in development for 10 years. And we finally made it this year with Milo Ventimiglia, who's in a show called This Is Us. Yes, and they all swoon. He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He's fantastic in it. So.
I'm assuming that since he is involved, there will be tears?
There's a lot of tears. It's a weepy. The book is
Yeah.
it's very sad and very moving, and I think at the same time very inspiring. So.
Now, you were going to star in that originally when you
Yes,
optioned it?
I did.
And
I got too old, I think, to star in it. So. Yeah, I know. One has to have a strong ego in Hollywood, I think.
yes, I'm glad it happens to you
But at least I got to
too.
produce it. So I enjoyed
Yeah.
that aspect. And, at the end of the day, what is yours cannot be taken away. What isn't cannot be held, I think is a great quote. And I think it wasn't my role to play. And my role was to produce and put the team together. And I really enjoyed that.
And I was
You're going to ask me that question, I know.
well, I was on your Instagram and I was looking at some stuff from the set, and it looked like a lot of fun as someone who is a race car driver to be organizing all of that. I mean,
Yeah, for me, that was really the focus, was getting the racing as authentic as possible. It's a small aspect of the film in many ways, how much racing we do show. But we needed to make sure that it was as accurate as possible. And I called in a lot of friends and teams to make it possible for us to shoot. We shot in Mosport, which is outside Toronto in Canada. Most of the production was shot in Canada.
which
Vancouver,
is
yeah.
typical, right?
Yes,
And-
because it was the book takes place in Seattle, and Vancouver is all the infrastructure and the tax incentives and things from Canada are much better.
Okay, all right. So I want to talk about the Dempsey Center because
Yes.
that's really why we're all here tonight. And I sort of loosely know the story of your mother, Amanda, getting ovarian cancer in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, at what point, if you could just take us back and tell us a little bit about the impulse, like when it occurred to you that Maine needed this thing.
My mother was diagnosed in, like you said, 97, and she had a long battle with it. I remember coming home and bringing my girlfriend, now wife at the time, home for the first time. And it was odd that my mother wasn't feeling well. She was always someone who was very active and outgoing and never ill. And it was just odd. And then I remember returning home and getting the call from my sister Mary that mom had been diagnosed. She has ovarian cancer. She needs to go in right away to have the surgery. And that's sort of when that journey started. And it wasn't until many years later, about 5 or 6 years, no, longer than it was 2005, that I think it was the second or third time that she had the cancer come back. And this was sort of right around the same time that Grey's was taking off, Grey's Anatomy. And people kept coming up to me, what are you doing? What's your charity and all that? And I didn't really have that question asked to me before. And it was around the time I was the spokesman for the Amgen Tour de California. Amgen was putting together this Breakaway from Cancer initiative, which were different disciplines and sort of supporting a network and supporting people who've been affected by cancer. And that's when I came upon wellness centers. And was there anything like that in Maine? If there was something that could
Right.
be supportive, certainly in Lewiston and Auburn at the time. There's several here in Maine, and that's when it started. That was sort of like, what can we do? And there's so many ways to, give back and do something, but sometimes you need to just take care of your own area, your own town. You make a bigger impact there, as opposed to sometimes people think globally, but I think sometimes we forget what's going on in our own backyard, and that was something that came up, and I was like, well, what can we do in Lewiston and Auburn? And that's how it started. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No,
but-
that's great. So, and what was your mother's response? I mean, was she someone who was telling you, I mean, I'm guessing she was not, but somebody who was telling you, I really think there should be X,
Oh, no,
Y,
she
and
would never
Z?
say that, no.
No.
She's, I think, a typical person who wants to be left alone and to do it on her own and doesn't want to ask for help. I think there are a lot of people that are like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you give them the opening and you say, look, you're not alone and it's okay, then they're a bit reluctant at the beginning. That was my mother. I think she was never someone who liked to be in the public eye. She was very shy, loved nature, and loved farming and gardening.
And your stepdad was an organic farmer?
Yes, he was an apple farmer in Buckfield. They met, so that was their thing. So no, she never was that excited about being out front. And to the very end, she didn't like it so much.
But she came to
She
the
was
Dempsey
she
Challenge.
was very brave in sort of going through her fear of being in front of the public and out doing that. I think it surprised her how big her impact was in the community, certainly. But my sister Mary was really very strong at making sure that was happening when the idea came up, and we were like looking into it. And now we're celebrating 10 years this year.
That's amazing. And you've
Which
also...
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's a real testament to the community, the support from the community to make it possible that all our services are free. And that's because of the incredible fundraising efforts that people individually, team-wise, have done to make it possible. It's staggering.
And so the most obvious thing is the Dempsey Challenge,
Right.
Which we all hear about, but what else is going on besides the scenes in terms of fundraising? What do we need to know about?
We had an event over the weekend that was at Bug Light with the Porsche Club of New England, and I think we raised close to $20,000 this weekend, which is phenomenal. So things like, it was great. A gentleman matched it, and at the very end of the day, gave us a check for $10,000. And
Wow.
the generosity from people, to me, is inspiring and makes us all, as a team and as a staff, work that much harder. So we do that, and we do the challenge is our big fundraising effort, and there are other things that we're going to be doing throughout the course of the year. We'll keep trying to find fun ways to get people to come in and engage.
Yeah.
And we're now here, in
Right.
South Portland.
And, right, because of this merger.
Yes.
So the merger between the Dempsey Center and the Cancer Community
Center.
Center happened on July 1st, right?
Yes. Yes.
And is that just a way to spread the wealth of the center? I mean, how?
Yeah, there was a great conversation downstairs in the green room before coming up about nonprofits in the state of Maine. There's a small group of them. And we need to work together, and we need to collaborate. We need to have a strong partnership to, I think, as a team and as a group, we can get more done that way. And that was sort of the idea behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The Cancer Community Center has been around for a very long time. I think 40 years, is that correct? Or close to that? Wendy
Maybe
Tardif is
30 at least? Or
20 years. Okay, I'm giving them 20 more years, so that's fine. But yeah, so you have to respect that and what they've done in this community, and to kind of come in and to unite those two ideas. And our objective is to reach as many people who have been affected by cancer as possible, so that they're not alone. And certainly complementing the work that the doctors are doing is what the center is doing, and we want to reach as many people as possible, and this was a step in that direction.
So you have the capacity to reach 5,000 people now, right?
Yeah, close to
Yeah.
6,000 now.
Okay. So the more there are events like this, the more you can reach, right? I mean,
Yes, because sometimes I think people forget why we do the challenge, and the challenge can overshadow the work that it is that we're doing at the centers. And that's our thing that we're learning, is how do we reach more people, certainly the doctors, the health providers, things like that, to really let them know what it is that we're doing, and that we're there to help them in their job. And at the end of the day, the patients who come through the door, not only is it the person who's been diagnosed, but the caregivers. There was an encounter the other day at the center in Lewiston, and a caregiver came in to get Reiki, a massage, and
it's like a deep tissue massage,
deep tissue
right?
massage, and just sort of becoming aware of your body with Reiki. And we do acupuncture as well, which has been beneficial to people. And this is, aid and sort of support what it is that the doctors are doing, a traditional approach to fighting cancer. This is to help that side. And, to think about the caregivers and a support group. There's a support group down here in South Portland, but nothing in Lewiston, Auburn, and it's something we will now introduce. So it's the constant refinement, and also really listening to the community and the patients who come through the door, what we can do to improve our services and best practices.
And, they can do Tai Chi, they can do massage, meditation, like all of these.
Nutrition, there's so many
Nutrition.
different aspects. It's really up to, to try to, what is it that person wants that gives them empowerment and strength and a bit of control over something they have no control over. So that's sort of, I think, really the approach.
What did your mother, what made your mother feel better?
She didn't like this, you know, she had to have projects to do. You know, when my mother was diagnosed early on, I found an old farmhouse in Harpswell. That's another place, I should say, I used to live. Down 123, we found an old home that was built in 1830 and slowly went through the process of restoring that. That was something that she loved doing, and gardening. And she needed to have things that would give her a reason to get up in the morning. And certainly in those days when the chemo and those treatments were just overwhelming, it allowed her to not think about that and get up and do something else.
And you bought a house right next to that farm? Or?
We finished that project, and then the house next door came up, and we ended up getting that as well.
Okay.
And eventually selling things. But it was the process of restoring emotionally and I think psychologically and just physically was something that was important to her. And for us as a family, too. It was a tangible result that we could live with and see.
Huh.
And then it was a fantasy, too, of like, okay, what do we want to work on this year? What project do we want to take? And it's also, you know, I think an old building like this, and certainly with the transformation of what's happening in some of these cities in Maine where we've lost the industry now, that going back in and restoring the old mills, I think is incredibly important for the identity and the history of our great state. And certainly where the center is now in Lewiston is in an old mill. You know, it's a top floor of an old mill. And there is so much soul in those buildings.
So much soul.
You know,
yes.
that people feel that immediately. There's an emotional response. And that's something we would like to replicate moving forward in other centers that we will develop throughout the state.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of mills, that's
Yes,
for sure.
there is. It's just the capital to invest in,
Right.
in the brave souls who will go in and do that.
So speaking of brave souls, you always participate in the Dempsey Challenge,
Absolutely,
right?
yes. I love it.
And so you do the cycling?
Yes, I do.
And do you do the longest of them? Or?
No, my children, the last few years have been with my kids. And each year we're getting a little bit longer in our rides. And this year there'll be, I think, 20, and then I'll do the 50. I like the 50 and the 75, or I think whatever it is that a person likes to do. It's hard to not continue on because the camaraderie is great. The spirit's fantastic.
Yeah. I watched
very moving.
A clip of you with the Nightline reporter doing it. And
Yeah.
do you usually have an entourage?
Usually, yeah. I mean, it sort of gets collected along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's, I think, fun about cycling for me is there is this moving conversation where you can have an aggressive moment on the bike and you're riding and you're pedaling very quickly, and then you can sort of get over that hill and then coast a bit and then catch your breath and then have a conversation, you know, with someone.
Right.
And you meet so many people on the ride. I love that.
How often do you meet? This same clip, there was a woman who you meet in a street in Lewiston, and she says, "I used to watch you juggling in the yard."
Yeah, sure.
And you were like,
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about being from Maine and how you're out there in Hollywood. So I lived in Los Angeles for a little while, and I would be driving around there on those freeways, just like, I'm from Maine. What am I doing here? And I wonder about the grounding you have from being from Maine and how it affected you getting to Hollywood and living in Hollywood and, you know, trying to maintain the sanity of a family while you're being a star.
Yes, well, yeah, the first time I went to Hollywood, I was doing a play in San Francisco, Torch Song Trilogy, which was my Brighton Beach Memoirs was my big break to sort of, I lied about my age. And it was a Torch Song, actually, and Harvey Fierstein discovered me through an audition. I was at the theater at Monmouth, which is a great summer theater, with some great actors and great people. I remember flying down and auditioning for that and getting the role and then being in San Francisco, which is like a city, a real city, and then going to LA for the first time. It's sort of this urban sprawl where there's no real downtown. It's just sort of neighborhood after neighborhood and mini mall after mini mall. So it doesn't have the same feeling, and everything is so dry. It's not as lush and green as Maine. And at first it was really exciting because I could see every car that I saw in magazines was actually driving by. And you're like, I can't believe people can afford these things, number one. And that they're actually using them. And it's a car culture. So
and they're
we're off
cleaning
topic
them
a bit.
every day, right?
Yes.
I always had the dirtiest car in Los Angeles.
Yeah, yes, you have to constantly, I'm just thinking about how dirty my car is currently, and I better start to clean it before anybody sees it. But yeah, I mean, you live in your automobile, unfortunately, there, and you're always in traffic, and so much time goes by that you have time to think. And I used to commute from Malibu, where I lived, to Los Feliz, which is a 45-mile drive, and that could take, on a good day without traffic, 42 minutes was my fastest run. I was going quite quickly to achieve that, to 2 hours and 35 minutes to do it, to go to work one day, and it was a 12, 15-hour day, and then an hour back, and at that point I was really desperately missing the quality of life here in Maine. So I think it's really hard. The value system is one where the emphasis is on the exterior, and that's never gratifying, I don't think, at the end. No matter how much you have or you achieve, it will be empty, to you. It's what is spiritually nurturing you. I think that is the challenge there. There are good people there, and there are people who are lost souls looking for a lot of validation in a business that doesn't really support that. It's a tough one for that, to keep that in check. And to have a family there is challenging, without question. It takes work to stay on top of those things.
Do you mostly live in LA so the kids can go to school? And
Yeah, for school, certainly I have 2 more years. My daughter is going to be a junior in high school.
She's going to be a junior. She's very beautiful.
Yes, she is. Thank you very much. She's an amazing, Tallulah is amazing. She just returned summer school in Barcelona, which was great for her to study there. And I highly recommend travel is the best way to go to another culture and immerse yourself in that. You learn so much that you get a chance to really understand a different culture, which I think is important, and then come back, but go out and travel. So to me, travel is very important. And I'm on the road quite a bit through either racing or through my work and with the family. And I think those are the moments that are the most important for kids, I think, is to really expose them to different ways of life and get them uncomfortable in a good way.
And you have twins.
Twin boys who are 11, yes.
11.
And they're going to school there too. But we're changing it up. We were trying, the public school system just didn't work for us there, unfortunately. So now we're trying a school where 3 days a week it's in the classroom, and then 2 days they're outside and taking the practical sciences and utilizing them out in nature.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's a school I wish I had gone to,
Yeah.
quite honestly. So, and also understanding, it's sort of almost like the Thoreau approach to understanding nature and being harmonious with that, and listening to the cues. So that's what we're trying to provide.
And
a connection to the land, I think, is important.
And are they outside in the mountains? Are they in the Santa Monica Mountains?
They're in the Santa Monica Mountains, yes.
Okay, wow.
In Topanga Canyon, which is...
Oh, very nice.
Topanga Canyon is like the very hippy-dippy, Birkenstock, patchouli vibe, which is good. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And the teachers are really on it, really open and progressive, and caring about the individual. And their learning style, I think, is important.
How do your children deal with your fame? I mean, just watching you tonight, obviously everybody wants to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And when you're out with your family, I mean, I know that my son gets annoyed just if I talk to somebody else at the dog park, you know? And nobody's trying to take a selfie with me at the dog park. So how do they cope?
It's each one deals with it differently. Sullivan, who's much more the performer of the family, loves it. He's the first one to jump in and to grab the camera and do the selfie, and he loves that. Darby is a little bit more of a person he's shy and he doesn't like it, and it's a bit tricky because we want to have family time, but at the same time, when you do decide to step out, you're a public figure, and we are as a family a family, and we have to be able to do that. So it's challenging at times, but they're learning how to cope with it and to deal with it, and it provides a lot for us as a family that we have to be respectful of and grateful of. And if I don't want to go out, I don't go out. I stay home and we do things privately. But when I make a decision to go out, then I'm making a decision to go out and to engage with people who come up to me. I think that's important.
I should just tell you that during our meet and greet before this, Patrick spoke with someone who was telling him about an 18-year-old cancer patient, and he disappeared for a little while, and I thought maybe he was, just taking a break, but he was actually on the phone with her, weren't you?
Yes, we have a wonderful program at the center called the Healing Tree, which is for young kids and at different ages that sometimes they're forgotten. And in this process, whether it's they themselves have been diagnosed or a family member or a friend, and they need to be understood. They need to be heard. And it's a program it's a beautiful program for those kids. And also the Center for Grieving Children has a program here in Portland that we want to collaborate with. So there was a young girl who was 18 who was struggling a bit. And I just wanted to let her know that the services were there for her. If she chose to come in, we would take care of her. And we had a great conversation.
Do you think she's going to come in?
I hope so.
Okay,
I hope so.
good.
And then when she does, she is?
She is?
Oh, yes. Well, tell the story.
Because you said so.
Oh, good, yeah. But
She said she had heard about it, but she was afraid. She
Right.
was afraid to go.
And she also said something else to me that was really quite interesting that I forget now where she's being treated, but they
Dana Farber.
well, yes, in Boston, but also here that sometimes people forget what it is that we do at the center. And we need to work on getting our message out there in a stronger way, in a clearer way, so that people know that they're not alone and that we're there to help them and support them.
She said that it was amazing that she got to talk to you, but she said that she's most looking forward to talk to other people like herself who are struggling.
Right.
And she's such a positive person. I think she might help others.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other program we have is the Buddy program. Is someone who's been diagnosed and recently diagnosed and someone who's a cancer survivor comes in and they support each other. And there's a chemistry, as soon as those people connect, there's an immediate, deep understanding that you just can't communicate in words. And there are all these things that we need to cultivate and bring awareness to so that more people can, utilize these services.
Wow.
It's inspiring,
Yeah,
completely
it's
inspiring.
totally inspiring.
Because there's no BS in this. It's just the purity of people opening up their hearts. It's very inspiring.
Do you think, just as the public face of this, the fact that you played a doctor on television? I mean,
Yeah, I know. I thought about that a lot. It'd be really weird if I walked around in scrubs and a lab coat. But
Right.
I think it's the real blessing of the show is there's this projection that I'm a doctor, and I would be the worst doctor, by the way. I would just be absolute. But I think it does help a little bit, just with the awareness. Certainly, the power of television, the reach all around the world, and certainly with a show that's still on. It's going to their 15th season, which is remarkable.
It's like the
Yeah, I know.
Simpsons, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm very grateful for all that it's given me. And I think that the greatest thing that's come out of it is really ultimately the center and the awareness that we've been able to bring to this. Because of that, that's the positive thing of fame, I think. If you use it properly.
Right.
If you use it in a selfish way, I think it's a dead end. I just don't think it will fulfill you. It's an empty thing at the end of the day.
So, I was reading up on you, and I read this quote where you were talking about how you had come to this point where you owned yourself, and the quote is, "I stopped making acting so precious, and I still don't make it precious. I come in and get my work done, but I think it's important to have things that allow you to take at least one or two steps back." Now, that was 2010, and since then, obviously, you've had this big change in that you moved on from that role.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, like, were you just like, okay, what do I do now? I mean, you're producing.
Right.
And
Well, it's hard because, ego is the biggest challenge in one's life, I think. It's like what your persona is. And when you're on a show for 10 years and you're racing, you project this persona into the world, and that becomes your so-called identity. And when you make the decision to say no to that or to stop that and to go into a different direction, which I think is important. Change is critical, I think, in life, to constantly strive to grow and to change and to explore new things. And that was the thing that I knew I had to be prepared for, is to allow that to go and to have a moment of downtime in order to rediscover the next step in one's life. It's like a wave, right? It will ebb and it will flow, a tide, and you need to be able to sit comfortably in those transition points with yourself. And that's where sort of the meditation comes in, and it's sort of finding something where you're not putting your whole identity on it. You have to sort of witness yourself going through these things.
So, do you feel less interested in acting these days? I mean, I did just see, and
Well,
maybe it's a lie, but I saw that there was on IMDb that you might be in an Enchanted sequel.
Well, yeah, they've been trying to develop. I mean, development takes a long time.
Yeah.
And it was such a great movie. Anyway, and Amy Adams is fantastic in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think there's a script now that she's very happy with. They're developing the sort of the A and B storylines, and there's talk of starting in the first quarter of next year, but I have yet to read anything. But if
Okay.
it's good, yeah, I'd be very open to trying that. But acting for me is different now because the challenges are different. Harry Cabert is based on this book. Actually takes place in New England. The writer actually he's Swiss, but he would summer in Maine.
Oh,
And we
really?
shot it in Montreal last year. And that's a different character for me. It's a darker character.
You play a college professor?
I play a novelist who becomes a professor, and he's caught up in a scandal where he is arrested for the murder of a young woman. And is he the killer or isn't he is the question. So it's a thriller, and it was something I wanted to do, and it was different with a French director by the name of Jean-Jacques Annaud, who did a movie called The Bear, The Lover, beautiful.
Oh, The Bear.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous movie.
Yes.
And I've always wanted to work with him, and that was, when I saw his name on the email that came in, I was immediately on a plane to fly to Paris to sit down and meet with him and fight for the role. And I got it, so it was great.
And when are we going to see it?
That's a
'Cause it
good
was
question.
at Cannes, right?
Yeah, it's going to be in Europe in October, and I probably here next year.
Okay.
It's a 10-part event series, and the book is really fascinating, and it was great to do.
It was a huge bestseller.
And I aged from
right?
35 to 67, and I had never done anything. Yeah, I know, it was really frightening. In the afternoon of my life, to actually accelerate it to the twilight of my life in the 5-hour. It was 5.5 hours of makeup to get into the age makeup. Yeah, and I had no patience for it.
I just
at the
hope they
beginning.
didn't make you bald. At
No, I have a
67.
full head of hair that's
Okay,
all
good,
gray
good.
and very long, and it was fun to transform. I really enjoyed that process, and that was new. So that's, as an actor, those are the things you look for, and it's nice to have the time to wait for those roles to come along. And I start something in October in Rome and in London based on the book called The Devil, which is sort of around the economic crash and what the bankers were doing at that time.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's another darker,
Is it? It's
unlikable character.
It's a movie, though, not a
No,
miniseries?
I really am enjoying shows that have like a 10-part miniseries. They're fun to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then if people love it, then they can always figure out a sequel, right?
Yeah, I mean, in success, they could figure out how to make
Yeah,
it
yeah.
continue on. But, I mean, that's fun. Television right now is a good medium to work in.
Yeah, television there's so much that's great out there.
Because you can binge watch, all the great shows.
What's the last thing you binge watched?
I'm into documentaries right now, but I think when the Vikings, has anybody seen the Vikings? That's a great show. And there was a Viking ship in the harbor over the weekend, which
I
was
saw it on
fascinating. So you think of
Instagram.
what they were navigating and their ability to navigate these waters was quite
Like, let's
fascinating.
go 3,000 miles.
Yeah, we don't know where we're going, but we're going to go.
We've got some salt pork.
Yeah, we're fine. Let's hit the road. It's a bit of a non sequitur. It's no Chick-fil-A.
So, I took my son to see Bridget Jones' Baby.
Oh, yes.
And he only went because, I made him, I didn't want to leave him at home. And it's almost 2 years ago, probably.
How old is your son?
He's 14.
14, okay.
And I thought, going up against Colin Firth, that seems like, that's a real challenge, to enter the franchise and be like, I am going to be Colin Firth's rival. And I want you to know that we left that movie and my son said, she should have ended up with the American guy.
That's what I said.
Yes.
I do these movies and they always go to the other guy. I don't know what's happening. But, that was always, to sort of step in the shoes and Hugh Grant, who's,
Yeah.
you absolutely, who I actually had a great story. I ran into him on a plane and I was like, oh no, I don't want to run into Hugh Grant. What's he going to say to me, right? It's just terrible. And he actually came up to me, towered over me, and said, congratulations, nice job. I like the movie.
Really?
And I was like, oh, thank God, And then the following day, he was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for something else.
Paddington?
Yeah. No, not for Paddington. It was
Okay.
for the another movie that came out.
Okay.
I was like, good for him.
I just saw a very funny thing of him talking about all of his characters where he revealed that he basically played the same person like 5 times over.
Yeah, but I mean, he has an amazing ability, and of course you hear all the stories when you're doing the film. And Colin, by the way, was wonderful to work with, and we spent a lot of time together, and I enjoyed his company immensely. And he's very funny and quite charming, and Renee as well. So it was a nice experience to be that close to it. But his ability for improvisation and the stuff he could come up with was phenomenal.
So you improv in a situation like that?
Yeah, a little bit we did, yeah. I did actually more in Harry Caber than I've ever done.
Huh.
We shot 3 cameras at a time and maybe did 1 or 2 takes, and it was just, we were done. It was great. We would rip through scenes, and I never had that freedom before. Certainly on Grey's, there was no room for improvisation ever.
It was like get the job
You
done
have
every
to
day.
say as written, and that's pretty typical for network shows, I think.
Yeah. So is the connection with Colin Firth how you ended up in the Love Actually sequel?
Richard Curtis, that's his who was one of the writers on that, came in, and of course, he did 4 Weddings and a Funeral. He's a very well-known English writer. They invited me into that world.
Okay. Where you saved Laura Linney from...
I was Laura Linney's husband.
We're all grateful for that
Yeah.
because...
I never met her. It was so funny.
You didn't?
Never. No, because I shot that in London, and she was in New York doing her side of it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Huh. So I want to do a little bit of this or that, which, might be really annoying, but we'll give it a try.
All right, try.
Okay.
See, how's everybody over here doing? It's just a look. I'm sorry. I just realized my back has been turned the entire time. I'll open up a
Oh,
bit.
yes. Okay, so
Not to stall.
lobster or clams?
Lobster.
Okay.
It's like free association.
Yeah, lake swimming or ocean?
Lake swimming.
Oh,
Oh, there's
interesting.
some good responses. Thank you, everybody. Well, that's because you grew up in Maine. You don't really swim in the ocean that much.
I do.
Well, okay.
I mean, it's refreshing.
It's like the Polar Bear Club, right? Isn't it? Like,
Yeah, but don't you worry about the snapping turtles and the eels?
no, I don't really worry about that.
No, nobody else does?
No.
I met someone the other day who told me that she worked at Bowdoin College, where you hold an honorary degree
Yes,
from.
I did.
And one of the professors in the biology department showed her infrared photos of Sewell Lake, where she liked to swim, with the snapping turtles.
Right.
And I was like, I will continue to return to my mud flat swims from now on because snapping turtles scare me.
Yeah, no, I don't really. Now
Okay,
I'll probably
right.
think about it the next time
Oh,
I'm in.
I'm
I'll be like, what
sorry.
else is around me right now?
Okay, so suit or sweats? And I think since you designed a clothing line, he designed a clothing line, you guys.
I was a capsule collection for Blue Salt, really comfortable stuff. It was fun to do. I think when I'm home, I just like to be in sweats. And a suit, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Or a very elegant
jacket,
blazer,
yes.
yes, okay. All right, sail or speedboat? I know the answer to this.
It's tough. I mean,
Really?
it's 2 different experiences, right? I
Yeah.
think Hinckley does a beautiful day sailor of 42 that is, the technology is amazing on that boat. and it's a sailboat. But then you have the lobster boats with the jet drive and everything, and they're incredibly fast.
Like the picnic boat, you mean?
The picnic boat
Yeah.
is a blast, and I would like. Could you have? I mean, if you're going to really waste the money on a boat, it'll get both and really go down the tubes quickly.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Okay, I like that. All right, reds or scales?
I'm sorry. What?
Red,
Red?
Reds in Wiscasset, you know, the ultimate traffic jam.
Oh, okay. I had no idea what that was at first.
Well, it's the
And Scales is the restaurant here in Portland.
yes, which
I was there last week. Yes.
and
It was really good food.
it's really, really good food.
Yeah, it's funny, growing up in Maine, and certainly Portland in the 70s is not the Portland of today.
No.
And it's amazing to see what's happening on the Eastern Promenade. And the restaurant choices in this city now are unbelievable. The young
Yeah.
chefs that are here doing the work that they're doing, it's just great.
So
It's like every night there's a new surprise. In Brunswick, yes.
Even in Brunswick, we have a James Beard nominee chef, like for under 30, 4 times over or something, running a restaurant in
It's
Brunswick.
wonderful to see. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. So Reds, you know, I mean, it's a $24 lobster roll, but it's like, 3 lobsters jammed into a hot dog bun, which can be a little tiring, but, anyway, you might,
I should check
next
that.
time you're going up the coast.
Okay.
Okay, so night out at the movies in the classic style or Netflix?
Wow. I like Netflix, I have to tell you. I mean, yes. I mean, it's fun to go to a theater if it's the right type of, like a horror film is great to see with a group of people because everybody jumps together. And the communal experience of being horrified is great.
Yeah, yeah.
As we experience on a daily basis anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see It, the Stephen King?
I went, sorry, I know, I dropped that in there. I did it. My son loves horror films, so we went to go see it. Yes.
Oh, and were you scared?
No, not at all.
Oh,
No.
okay. God,
He wasn't either. I was waiting for him to jump, and he never did.
Wow, okay.
I jumped first, and he's like, sorry. Not as cool as you are.
Moose or puffin?
Two extreme creatures, right? I mean, a moose is always amazing when you sort of stumble upon one.
Yeah.
And you're like scared to death because you hear all these stories that they're going to trample you. But when you see them in the wild, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's an incredible creature.
But okay, so you drive fast and you're in these beautiful cars. I spend a lot of time on 95. You know, when you get to the signs that say moose next 10 miles?
Yeah, you sort of slow up a little bit.
Yeah, for me, it's the equivalent of California. I was always like, okay, I'm going under a freeway in an earthquake. This might come down on me. So I'm going to get under that overpass really quickly. So I see the 10 miles, like, okay, at 10 miles, I got to go fast to get away from the moose.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
That's why I get speeding tickets and you don't.
Situational awareness, you always try to identify where the police officers are.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't see him.
And then you let other people know in the other direction, flashing your lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, right? There you go.
Yeah. Okay, since you have 11-year-old twins, Xbox or PlayStation?
PlayStation and Xbox. It's hard, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I lost that battle.
Is it a Fortnite household?
Fortnite, how disruptive is this game? You know, and I won't get into it because it's like an addiction if you get started, right?
Right.
And then the mood swings happen, and then all of it, the kids in your neighborhood are screaming, and you don't see them, but you hear them. And you don't know what's going on in that room. So it's been banned.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, for right now. Hopefully
Good
that
for you.
continues. Until they see this interview, and then it's back in.
Yeah. I mean, what blows my mind is that they're actually paying money to costume their characters.
It's a great business model for whoever
It's
created it.
astonishing.
It's like a $1 billion company.
Yeah. But it'll be gone by next year, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, digital or print?
Oh, it's nice to always have something in your hand if you have a print, and digital too if you're traveling. So I like a little bit of both, actually.
Okay. And if you had the ability to choose a nickname for yourself.
Oh, it's
because
been chosen, unfortunately.
I know.
I had no say in it. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to elicit that response, but I have no choice in the matter.
Do you sometimes think, my New York Times obituary, please let it not be in the lead?
It's funny, you do think about that.
Yeah.
That will always be there. And it's a tough one to live up to. You were
You're
talking
doing
about
fine.
going out, and you have this sort of moniker of McDreamy. You have to kind of live up to that. And some days it's tougher than others.
Yeah.
And the people who really know you wouldn't say that to you at all.
Right. Of course not.
But it could be worse.
Yeah, it absolutely could be worse. So, racing.
Yes.
You're not actually, you're running a team now instead of racing yourself.
I'll get in the car, I'll do some lapping days and maybe some sprint races and some rallies, but not at the level I was at. And 2015 was the year I raced full time.
And you got second in Le Mans?
Second in Le Mans, we won in Fuji, and we were third in the championship. Thank you. Yeah, it was a fantastic year.
Is that something, so you definitely, you watched the Indianapolis 500 with your dad, right,
Yeah,
when you
yes.
were a kid. Did you ever think you would get to do something like that?
I just fantasized about it for so long that it became, I suddenly manifested it. I think my wife was not so happy about the level of commitment, but she sort of got me started with a Skip Barber 3-day competition. And it was, for me, it went back to the days when I was ski racing here in Maine. And the sense of control and the speed and the mental challenge of it was really appealing to me. And the camaraderie in the world, to be able to race at that level with a factory team like Porsche was a dream come true.
So your wife sent you basically on like a guy fantasy
She got tired of me
3-day thing?
sitting on the couch Sunday watching Speed Channel and all the races chronically, and she's like, why don't you go do that? And then that's how it got started. So it was a 10-year odyssey going down that road, to literally that road, and doing it. And it was great. I'm glad I did. It really changed me on a profound level, on understanding teamwork, focus, and the physical and mental discipline of competing at that level. Yeah, and it sort of affects on how I do everything now. Certainly the work at the center, on the value of a team and the focus of a goal. That process is the end result of how well your process is. All of those things, I think, to me, have been transformative.
It's interesting to me that you are so vested in philanthropy and racing in much the same way that Paul Newman was.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
Did you get to meet him?
I did meet him. I met him.
I mean, I'm sorry, but let's talk about McDreamy.
Yeah, he was amazing.
He was the most beautiful man ever
most amazing blue eyes, too.
Yes.
And you look at them and it's like, you're like, oh my God, what's going on? It's like Jungle Book when the serpent, it's like, you're like hypnotized by him. And he was so gracious, and I met him at Long Beach at the race, and he spent a good hour. We just talked about racing. We never talked about Hollywood at all.
Wow.
But his philanthropic work at Newman's Own and the Hole in the Wall Gang and the stuff that he has done is very inspiring. And he's the right template, I think, to follow. As an actor, as a man, and certainly as a driver, he was phenomenal on all three counts.
And it continues on. He's gone, but all of his work continues on. And
yes.
So
yes.
It's a great standard.
Yes, it is. And that's ultimately, I think, at the end of the day, empathy and giving back is really what the meaning of life is about. Everything else is a distraction from that. Yeah, it's just, it makes you feel good and the people around you feel good, and it brings out the best in everybody. And it's great to be a part of that, and I think that's what, it's so funny that it's called the center, and it is a center in many ways for a lot of people, me included.
That's great. I want to open things up to the audience. I know we've got some questions planned, and I think Molly is out there with a microphone, maybe?
Where's Molly?
Molly is out, I see her running with a scarf and a white t-shirt. She helpfully wore white so I could spot her.
It's kind of like a town hall meeting.
I know.
Hi there. What's your name? Dina. Hi, Dina.
Can everybody hear Dina?
Is the mic on?
What's that? On? Okay.
The light. There you are.
Hi. Okay,
Hi.
good. I need some light to see this, too. And I want to thank you very much for the life as you're living it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm nearly deaf, so when you do talk, I really appreciate you speak loudly. As a breast cancer patient 15 years ago, I had to seek ways to pay for a very expensive medication that was follow-up for the 5 years following surgery and chemo and radiation. And this included going to and/or ordering from Canada back then. I wondered if you think it might be possible for hospitals or centers to establish their own pharmaceutical production on their campuses with FDA approval if necessary and with more transparency than do the big businesses with their overinflated prices and monopolies and control over choices of insurable medications.
Well, thank you for the softball question there. But that's a great question, by the way. You know, I think the bigger question is, can we make it affordable for people? The drugs are just devastating in the cost, and certainly in other countries, it's a little bit more available for people. And I think this is why we need to get out and vote, right? Because this is going to happen on a government level. This is a country run, you know, we forget this. It is, our destiny is in our own hands. And we all, and no matter where you are, if you're a Republican, a Democrat, Independent, that's your choice. This is what is great about America. And it's we, the people, have to stand up and fight for what it is that we want in our elected officials. And it's not up to us as a center to do that. I wish we had the means to be able to do that. But we can, as a society, state what it is that we want from our elected officials to help us in these times. Because you're seeing people who don't have the means go under. And then you go to other countries and people look back and they go, what is going on in your country? Why do you not have a good medical system there taking care of the citizens of our great country? And it's a hard one to answer. It really is.
I know there are a number of people in the audience who have Susan Collins on speed dial. And, you know, it's certainly an interesting time. We have another one, right?
Hello, Patrick.
Hello.
I'm a bit of a car guy.
Okay, great.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was actually lucky enough to do a Skip Barber class at Laguna Seca a while back.
Laguna Seca?
Yeah, on a business trip. And I'm kind of lost because they're taking away all the stick shifts from the all-wheel drive cars. And I'm trying to figure out if you have any recommendations. And I love the Macan, but I don't know why Porsche isn't offering it a stick.
They are still doing it. You can order them.
The Macan?
And the Macan, no. But if you get like an early 911, you have the stick. And it's coming back around, believe it or not. You know, people are tired of the PDK. Started getting into race talk and car talk. But an H pattern is a gearbox, and it's fun to do. You feel like you're driving when you have a gearbox. Although I like the PDK when you're racing. It's much easier. Sorry.
Wait a minute. So
get a used
stick?
Aircoupe. I would get a Porsche like early 90s, 80s. If you get, those are fun cars. And the value is fantastic.
Did the car you drove here tonight have a stick shift?
Unfortunately, did not. No.
Okay, so that's a thing.
Well, no, but I
assumed-
chose not to because
Okay.
I was in the Cayenne, so it was different.
Okay. And you never know when you might hit traffic.
There was a lot of traffic coming into that.
It's getting a little
It was
LA-like,
rush hour,
isn't
yeah.
it? I mean,
It's 2 lanes as
on a-
opposed
on
to
a-
5. But
yeah, on a Friday.
I know, a matter of time. Yes.
Hi, Patrick. I should say, hey, neighbor.
Hey, neighbor.
How are you? You've had this opportunity to live this big life. You've got to be an actor, and you have your name and face on this tremendous, worthy nonprofit, race driver, father, family guy, travel. Now we're hearing about this clothing line and of being a producer. So you've gotten to live this great big life. What do you think is your greatest achievement?
I think really the center to me is an achievement because it's done as a group of people and also as the support from the community. And I think that's the thing that is moving to me.
Thanks for that.
I have the feeling your mother must have been incredibly proud of you.
Yes, I think so, and I'm proud of the family and our community and really the people. I'm inspired by the people that are at the center, the staff and the volunteers and the community, because they bring out the best in our society. I mean, the intention is to really make that person who comes through the door feel better, and that's a special place to be. And if we could live like that on a daily basis, it would be unbelievable. Which is hard, I think, in a world that we're in right now. Because how can anger be rewarded? It shouldn't be. And karmically, it's going to come back, I think.
I think that the sort of the human crisis of one's health, I mean, I feel like it's just tough to be a human right now. But then when you add in the idea that you're fighting for your life, how to focus, you need help, right? You need somewhere where you can go and
Yes.
have that support.
I don't think we want to feel alone anymore. And not to leave you standing there with a microphone and not asking your question. What was your question?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi
My name
there.
is Mary. I work with your niece, actually. I just wanted to ask you, you've branched out, and you've done so many things, and the Dempsey Center is doing so amazingly well. Have you thought about bringing anything else to Maine, another center of some sort, maybe with, creative or acting, that kind of thing, or with your dyslexia?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. So, okay, how do we begin with? I think the thing for me right now is really statewide with Dempsey Centers. It was always the intention to move south and sort of have a way for if people are being treated in Boston to move up the coast. And also, rural Maine is a place that needs a lot of attention and is always forgotten, it felt like, certainly growing up here. You would always hear what was happening on the coast, but you never would hear what was going on in rural Maine. And certainly to have more centers and an outreach in that area when the time is right, that's our objective, is to be statewide, and then to be regional, and then on a national level, and then international level, I think is where we're going. We need the corporate sponsorship in order to maintain the services so that they're free. And sometimes if you don't have something that's on a national platform, you can't get the big sponsors to do that. But you have to have the infrastructure in place in order to be able to expand in a way that's sustainable. And that's our goal. So
That's
that's
awesome.
the next step. Yeah.
Yep, that's awesome. Thank you.
In time, thank you.
And you bring some sponsors like Amgen, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pharmaceutical company, a bio company, and they've been at the very beginning, and they paid me to be a spokesman at the very beginning. I was always conflicted about taking the money to do that, and that's one of the things that was that money that was originally for the spokesman went to start the center. And they've been a sponsor, a major sponsor for us for 10 years. And it helps us underwrite the cost of the challenge, which is quite expensive.
Yeah.
As well as a lot of local sponsors that make it possible for us to do that.
So even though Amgen is in Thousand Oaks, right?
Yes.
So near you in
They have a
LA.
campus in Cambridge, too, in Massachusetts.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's a bio company down there. So they've been very good, very supportive with us. And I know that, there are people who work for that company who have been affected by cancer, who are currently in the fight of their life right now, who have been there for us, and we need to be there for them too, for moving forward. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it affects everybody, and you can feel it, and the people when you go in there that are working on a daily basis to try to find a cure to help people that have been affected by cancer. They're motivated, certainly.
Yeah, they're heroes. I feel like I was just up at Bigelow Lab interviewing scientists last week, and every time I talk to the scientists, I feel better about the world. You know, they're just working so hard, and they're so focused on their area, and you know, whatever's swirling around out there in the world, they are still in the lab doing their thing. Of course, they need the funding, but
Yeah, that's everywhere.
yeah, that's everywhere. Do we have another?
Yes. Hi, my name is Tori. As a cancer patient, I find it extremely overwhelming to find what resources are there just to get through my doctor's appointments and treatments and life. I don't have extra time to be researching and finding out what is available. And aside from calling each of the cancer patients, which you can call me if you want, how are you getting
All right, give me your number. No one else will hear it.
Okay. How are you getting the information and resources in the hands of patients and caregivers so they know what is available at the Dempsey Center?
I invite you to come to the center if you haven't been.
I haven't. I went on the
What part-
website.
Yes.
I went on the website and it was like, call this to make an appointment. And I'm like, an appointment? I can't do another appointment.
I understand you.
It's overwhelming.
Please make an appointment. Will
All
you
right,
promise
but you
me
have
not?
to call me first.
All right. All right, here's what I'll do. Wendy, who's here from the center? Wendy's here. Will you come to us after the show?
Yes.
Okay. But you have to promise me you'll come and do an appointment. You have to
Okay.
go to, because then you can see what's going on. We can get a better understanding of what it is that you want to do and what you would like for us to do for you.
All right.
So that's why we have the appointment. And I know it's one more thing to deal with. It's a drag getting in the car. It's scary because it's the unknown, and you want answers, and you want to feel empowered, and we're there for you. You aren't alone. It's a drag, but you got to come through the door first.
All right, thank you. And I'll see you in 10 weeks.
Okay.
I'm doing 25 miles this week.
All right, right on.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Hi, Patrick. I'm Scott.
Hi, Scott.
This is going to be my sixth Dempsey Challenge this year, my fourth at the century mark.
Right on.
And thank you. I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite part of the Dempsey weekend year in, year out, and why? And do you have one sort of memory that stands out from the last 10 years?
One memory, no. I mean, I like it all, really. What I love is the spirit behind it. It's because people are so open, and that you can see it immediately when you look at someone's eyes. They're alive, and there's a twinkle, or there isn't, and there's a sadness, and you connect for a moment, whether it's on the bike or it's in the elevator going up to the center or someplace. And I think it's the interaction and that sense of community that to me is the most inspiring. I think that's why it's successful, because other people love that feeling too. And they're doing it because either they themselves have been affected, or a family member, or they've lost someone, or several people in their family have seen that happen. And it's the spirit of it. It's a cause that's greater than oneself that brings out the best in people. And to me, that's what is inspiring.
Scott, when you do the Dempsey Challenge, I bet you don't have any trouble hitting your baseline. It's like $150 worth of pledges, right?
I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of great support over the years. I think I've raised probably $10,000 in the last 5 years, somewhere in that
amazing.
neighborhood. So we have a team. As a team, our team's probably closer to 100 as a team.
Yeah.
Wow. So should I be in training now? I mean,
I think there's
It's not too late?
65 days left. How many we got before the 10? 10 weeks.
okay, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Mary.
might be the 5K. I don't know.
Well, you can walk, you can run, and also too, it's not a race, right? So
Right.
you're cruising along, and then you stop at the rest stops, and you go at your own pace.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I got a bike.
There you go.
Okay, excellent. And I've got relatives in the audience, and you have to.
There's your
pledge.
team.
Yeah, there's
your
my
Peloton right
pledging.
there.
There's my pledging right there.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes?
Hi.
Hi.
So I have two actually. First, why Porsche? You seem very invested in them.
Right. That's the first question. Why Porsche?
Yes, just curious why you were very invested in them.
Porsche was, in the conception of the brand, the car, was always meant to go racing.
Okay.
That was the reason. And it's in their DNA. And it's still very much a small company in many ways. And their approach is methodical in what it is that they set out to achieve. And they just supported me in a way that I've never had before. And even in Hollywood, it was a different way. They were like a clear evaluation of what my ability was, what my weakness was, what my strength was, and they built a team around that in order to succeed. Our goal was to get on the podium at Le Mans, and we achieved that. And we went about it in a methodical way. And to me, that made me believe in that approach can be done anywhere. You could replicate that model. And that's why I'm very passionate about it.
And secondly, to another girl who asked, as someone who has cancer, it was a little difficult to navigate, so I was curious as more information. I know you have to set up an appointment, but I feel like maybe if you could speak to someone more directly, I guess.
About information and about our center?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that we don't treat the disease, right? That's not what we do. We're there to support the doctors.
Yes.
In that. So what we try to do is treat the whole person. So how do you go about doing that? What is it that we offer? We do Reiki. It's good to be touched, right? In a way that becomes awareness to your body. Acupuncture. We're in the process of really acquiring the data of like, what's the quality of life of that experience so that we can present that to a doctor so that they are understanding how we approach them in a way that is in their language, that they can, so we can do that. And massage therapy, nutrition, yoga, the mindfulness of it is very important as well.
All good things.
Yes, and then, it depends on what that individual is wanting, too, from it.
Yes.
Like we were talking earlier about, just getting the appointment we find that to be really the biggest challenge is to get someone through the door. Once they're through the door, then the experience speaks for itself. You can feel it. It becomes tangible. It's not just sort of this abstract thing where it's just more data for you to try to process, Because it's overwhelming. When you go online and you try to get information, it's like, what is the right piece of information for me?
Very much
and
so.
I really am a firm believer that it's the interaction between another human being is what we're looking for.
Yes.
And sometimes the doctors are so overwhelmed, they don't have the time to sit there and to hear you. And that's why we're here.
Thank you.
And that's what the staff is about. They're trained professionals who do that.
Thank you very much.
I saw one more hand go up, Molly. Well, and also, I really feel like we need to hear from the
there's
woman
people
who
over
was
here
in
too that
school
we've
with
neglected all
Patrick.
evening. We'll get to you. Hold on. We've got time. There's
First
still
of all,
traffic out there.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Oh, I was saying hi to
Hi,
Mary.
Cindy.
I haven't seen you in 12 years. You look the same. You look fabulous.
You look fabulous. Okay, we did share care in California together when
Share
our
nanny.
children were infants.
Oh, great.
So-
Yes. So I have a question. So I have 3 kids myself, and you have 3 kids. And, your children are fortunate. Obviously, how do you keep them grounded, right? To not make them feel entitled, right? They go to, you say they travel, do all these amazing things. How do you instill certain values so that they can maybe replicate some things you've done, right? And to be appreciative of what they have and maybe contribute that?
It's a great question, by the way. How do you keep your kids grounded and how do you develop values that are positive values for kids? It's a daily basis. I mean, it's so challenging because of the technology that we have surrounding us and how that will influence them, how to regulate that. We were talking about PlayStation versus all those things. It's like how do you give them enough of that so that they fit in with their peer group, but at the same time it doesn't control them. So that means you have to get involved as a parent, which means you have to put your own stuff down and really focus on them. And that's the thing is spending the quality time with them. And each one is so different, right? And it's like, what is it that they are needing and wanting? And then also, what's your behavior as a parent? They're watching you, all the good and the bad and the ugly of it, and that's the challenge of it. It forces you as a person to be a better person. That's why I like them here running around in tick-infested woods so that they can be connected to the land and grounded, because I think that's the place where you really learn.
Right.
And then you expose them to things and you don't give them everything that they want. And that's challenging, you know, and,
It is,
and make them work for things. So I don't know. I'm still in the process of, you know, raising these children.
Right.
But when you get back and the neighbor says they have good manners, you're like, yes, we've done something right. It's the voice of my mother in my head.
They didn't
that
use
comes through my
profanity.
mouth.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's good. Those are good things. Okay.
So it's a challenge, I think, for all of us in the society we're in right now.
You want me to take one more?
Yeah, it's this woman right here is asking.
Hi, Patrick. It's Anne from the Center for Grieving Children.
Well, hello. Yes, we were just talking about you.
Welcome, and thank you for coming for a tour. We really appreciated you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And not to go on topic, but I'm just so curious how you got into acting. Because it sounds like you like speed as well. So.
You know what? It was a complete accident. I wasn't supposed. What happened was, ABC Wide World of Sports did a close-up, sort of this like behind the scenes of Inmar Stenmark, who was a skier at the time, who was a world champion, and he was riding a unicycle to improve his balance. And this dates me now. We used to get these Sears and Roebuck catalogs, right?
Yes.
That was like the internet of our day,
Yeah,
where you would go
absolutely.
back to the back section where all the toys were. You know, it had everything broken down, and I ordered, I think it was like a $25 unicycle. And I got it. It took me a year to learn how to ride it, but I eventually mastered it. And God bless you. And the power had gone out. I was in Buckfield High School at the time, and I was taking a shop class, and the power had gone out. And Paul McKinney, who was the teacher, was juggling. And he goes, well, you're riding the unicycle, you should pick this up. So I picked it up almost immediately and went home, practiced. I remember knocking over one of my mom's favorite plants and was banished to the garage. And then I practiced all night, and I came back, and then he started teaching me some more tricks. And then I ended up getting involved with a group that was in Buckfield called Buckfield Leather and Lather, Denise and Benny Reel. And then I sort of went with him and Randy Judkins, and I sort of just kind of fell into this thing accidentally. And I wasn't a terribly good student because someone brought up I was dyslexic, so I was not an academic, to say the least. And it was a place where I could perform and get some attention, and just one thing led to another. And I put together a 3-minute juggling routine, and I did it for here in Portland, the regional, for this Talent America competition. I won here. I remember getting enough cash from Tilton's Market, Mrs. Nickerson from Turner, Maine. My mother and father gave me enough money to get my first plane ticket to go to New York, where where as soon as I got off the plane, I thought I was going to get mugged because everybody's like, you're going to New York, something's going to happen to you. Of course, that's not the case because I'd walk down the street and everything was fine. I was blown away by the buildings. And then that's how it got started. You know, I ended up winning that competition, lying about my age, going to New York and auditioning for Torch Song Trilogy. And the next thing I knew, I was doing a Broadway play.
Oh, that's great.
But all I wanted to be was an Olympic ski racer.
Oh, I figured.
So I kind of failed in my dreams in a way.
Well, Mac Dreamy, I think you're doing okay.
Thank you.
Did you learn how to ski at Lost Valley?
I did, yes.
Ah.
And, you know, Lost Valley is in new hands right now. There's a new ownership there. We need their support. We need to go out and support them in the winter. It's a great place to start skiing as a family. We were there this year skiing with my kids. I've taken them there a few times.
That's awesome.
And then went on to Sugarloaf. I did an event at Sugarloaf this year as well. And the skiing in Maine is fantastic.
That's so nice to hear. I feel like most people who go to California, then they just want nothing to do with our icy slopes, you know?
Well, yeah. It's a different technique, but yeah, it's very icy here. It's very icy here. But you know, it's just getting out and being in the mountains and being in nature is really, it's just therapeutic.
Yeah. In my town, in Lost Valley, they take the kids, you pay like $150 and they take them up 4 Wednesdays in a month after school, and they get to have lessons.
Yes.
I just think that's incredible, you know, like that's available and that it's affordable, and you know, there are other kids learning at Lost Valley.
It's a great place to begin one's skiing journey.
Yes.
And I remember we lived in Turner at the time, and we would have to come in to do grocery shopping and laundry Friday nights. and my mother was saving up all her quarters to get a washer and dryer. And in the meantime, she would drop me off at Lost Valley. I would ski all night long. She would do the laundry and the groceries, and then pick me up, and then we'd go home. And I remember that was my Friday nights and Saturdays and skiing in Lost Valley.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is why it's nice to see it,
Continue.
with new ownership, and they have a long way to go, but we need to be out there supporting them.
They did not sponsor this event, but
No, they did not.
But they could in the future. So the woman who went to high school with Patrick, I just want to.
Oh, hi there. I'm glad you brought this. Okay, I'm dying to know what this question's going to be.
You were a year ahead of me at school, So you were a year ahead of me in school, and I remember you juggling down the hallway.
Uh-huh.
And I remember Brother Burt.
Yes.
Do you
This
remember?
is St. Dom's. This
Yes,
is
St. Dom's.
Yeah. This is the old school, not the new school.
Right, where we had to walk outside to get from one
Yeah.
class to the other because we were down the street from one building to the other.
Right.
Mr. Moore, this
Yes.
assistant principal, now works for me. He's one of my teachers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at South Portland Adult Ed. So yeah, just some good little memories that some of us that went to school talk about every now and then. We're like,
Yes.
oh yeah, we went to school at Patrick Dempsey, and then
Yeah.
I get this little girl over here who went, oh my God! This lady wanted to touch me. I'm like, the man's not going to remember me. But I did go to school with him. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
St. Dom's was great. I went there a couple years. Oh, sorry, as I
Ouch.
ripped my ear off.
Yeah.
These things are always so.
You should have come for the tape.
I
on
know.
the
I wanted the
face.
tape, but then he said it wouldn't stick to my beard. Not the change. Yeah, St. Dom's was I would drive in from Buckfield.
Yep.
And go there, and it was a great experience to be in that school.
It was a great small school.
It was.
And everybody knew everybody, and it was just,
And the brothers were great.
the brothers were awesome.
Although they did tell me I made a mistake by leaving school and running off with the
Yeah,
circus.
I kind of remember him saying
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
But
So it's
what
good,
can you do?
Good to see you.
Yes, thank you.
I feel like they should send you a certificate of graduation or something.
No, I did. I finally got
You did?
one.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I got it the night before I got the doctorate at Bowdoin. That was the fastest turnaround in my educational career. I thought that was really a pretty amazing moment.
Was it your idea to wear the Bowdoin sweatshirt on Gray's?
Yes, it was actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was living, we still had our house in Harpswell at the time. And Bowdoin's in a remarkable college. If you look at the history of, the people have come through that school, and also the energy on that campus. And it's certainly Bates as well, and Colby. I think people forget what we have in this state for higher education is pretty phenomenal.
Yes, and the
Bless you.
University of Maine.
Yes.
We can't forget the University of Maine, but you're right. I mean, we really are lucky. And
Hawthorne went to school there. I mean, it's amazing.
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain was there.
Longfellow.
Yes.
Everyone. Yeah.
Angus King, I believe, too.
Angus King, I would just...
So he's from Brunswick.
He's from Brunswick, and I would just like to point out that as I was stalking you on Instagram today, I realized that Angus King likes a lot of your posts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like a lot of his posts as well.
He's very talented.
Yes.
He's a lovely photographer.
He is.
But I was like, what does it take to... I mean, like, Angus King has never liked any of my posts.
Or you live in Brunswick. I'm sure you could go by his office.
I live in Brunswick. My sister, who you met, lived in the house that he lives in before he did.
Uh-huh.
We got a little thing going on.
Oh, right on.
I expect any day he's going to like one of my pictures of my dog.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having
really,
me.
really
I
great.
hope everybody had a good time. And just, if I could leave with one, there are a lot of people came up, who have been affected by cancer, are currently going through treatment. And I know it's hard to make the appointment. I know it's hard to to get in the door. But please do. Even just come by and visit. And we're here now too, in South Portland. And we are here for you. We are a part of this community. And if you know someone, please let them know. And if you know a doctor, please let them know. so that the person is not alone, that there is a community, there's a great staff of professionals who care deeply for their well-being, and we want you to be happy and healthy.
And there's information in the gift bags that you've got. The H.M. Payson gift bags also have information on the Dempsey Center. So you can check it out at home. Please do.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.